So this episode of The Rising of the Shield Hero was an excellent way to kick off the second core, and this was an episode really driven by the OST and sound direction overall. There was a lot to love with this episode, but what I noticed almost immediately was how relevant the soundtrack was for this episode, really allowing for a lot more quiet scenes where it's just the music playing as the characters are traveling to their destination, and it was nice to see how relevant the music was because this has one of the strongest soundtracks I've ever seen for a fantasy show, and it's nice to have episodes where it really gets to shine even better than it has prior. Like, the soundtrack is so impressive, and I love how much the music added to many of these scenes, even the action. It just really highlights the emotions and just what's truly at stake when it comes to the Shield Hero story. And this episode, it kind of shows what was going on, how we have the first princess working with the church to essentially set up the Shield Hero as being a criminal who's abducting the princess, brainwashing the princess, altering footage to make him look worse and worse so they can spread negativity surrounding his image and his party's image across the entire kingdom. It's actually a pretty damn good plan, I have to say. Now, granted, you can argue, like, if the Shield Hero went right then and there to the father and you had Melty say, like, no, he's not a horrible person, who would he believe? Would he believe the first princess or the second princess, especially when one of the sisters is saying that he has a brainwashing shield? So, to kind of just carry on because he doesn't need this kingdom and the kingdom needs him far more, it's actually the right call. But it was nice seeing that entire sequence play out because honestly, Naofumi's fed up with this kingdom at this point, knowing that there's other kingdoms out there, especially ones that actually would probably not hate him as much as this current one. I really think he's just so fed up, but he sees Mel as someone like, he doesn't want her to suffer because clearly, even though he tries to push against it, she's not her father or her sister. So I just like that sequence and learning what the plan is, especially seeing like the altered footage. Honestly, as horrible as it is, it's a pretty damn good plan, especially if you want to sabotage someone because you don't like one of the heroes that was summoned. And from day one, they've only liked the bow, sword, and spear hero. So just seeing that kind of traveling sequence play out and really getting the confirmation of something that I've been saying is that Mel doesn't know the full story of what happened with her father, her sister, and the shield hero, and it's clear that she doesn't, because the Queen and Mel know what's at stake, know that inside bickering isn't what should happen, and that there's bigger things at play than just personal grudges. And the fact that she gets the confirmation that of what's happened against him, learning that Queen's orders didn't get through to the king, and the king overrode the most powerful person in the kingdom, that's going to be pretty interesting, especially because this episode ends with the shield hero on a new path of not going to his current destination, but rather taking a detour to meet with the queen. I mean, I'm not surprised by this development, especially with everything that's happened and how Mel has kind of gained Naofumi's trust. I'm not surprised that he's willing to meet with the queen at this point in time, even though he has such a distaste for the royal family. At least one is showing a pretty damn good heart and putting trust into him, same way Raftalia or even Philo does. So it makes sense, especially because we have this like lingering menace kind of tailing them, and it turns out it's actually an ally just saying like, I'm always here for you, I just had to kind of keep to the shadows up till now. So it's pretty nice just seeing what this episode truly did, because it really let Mel kind of join into the central crew, whereas before she felt more like an outsider. I mean, Naofumi never even called her by her first name. The only time he started was at the end of the episode after everything that transpired. When it comes to the heroes though, I have to say, like, of course it's fun to hate on the three other heroes. I mean, they are rash, they're clueless, they're dense, they try to be the heroic badass, and they get easily influenced. You have the spear hero who's too horny for his own good and makes really illogical decisions. You have the bow hero who's so determined to be a hero, and he kind of is clouded by that mindset, thinking he can do no wrong. Ren, the sword hero, is the only one who doesn't really make me mad. And I kind of like this dynamic because you need a good antagonist. You need characters that are going to push what the hero has to do in the story. And having the other three heroes and having Worst Girl honestly makes the series 1,000 times better, because there's conflict and constant bickering that without them, the series would be a lot more boring. But Ren is someone who I like how he's the most calm out of the other three, I find. Like, even though he tends to side with the kingdom more, I like how he's starting to recognize more and more that things are kind of shitty in this kingdom. I like how the only one Naofumi puts trust in out of the other three is the sword hero, because he's the only one who probably also doesn't piss Naofumi off. Like, I remember when Naofumi was having dinner there with Raftalia, the only of the two heroes between Bow and Sword, the Sword was the only one who kind of like listened to what Naofumi had to say where Bow was storming out. So to see how Naofumi is trying to make his case, being like, listen, this was a setup, everything's bad, and you have Sword Hero being like, okay, I'm gonna listen to this, even though I have no true reason to believe you. I mean, I got an entire kingdom saying you're in the wrong. And then when Naofumi's like, listen, she's just gonna kill the girl. She's gonna say that she's trying to help her and clear her, and she's going to kill her. And then like minutes later, she says the exact same thing. Like, this girl has no sense. Like, literally, she's trying to kill the princess in front of everyone. And then you see Sword Hero being like, this bitch, like, what's this bitch doing? She can't do this. Like, even if she is corrupted, you've got plenty of people who could probably dispel something that's going on with her head. So I like how, like, it would be very boring if characters like the Sword Hero just immediately switched or switched at all. Like, I'm glad there's like this build up to some of the characters other than just the Shield Hero and his main party, recognizing some things are a little weird. And I think the only thing that's truly going to salvage everything that's happened is when the Queen can come back from whatever her mission is with these other kingdoms. But to have just so much at play for being a lot of a setup style episode, it was pretty interesting and overall exciting. The music was building that atmosphere like I mentioned earlier, but just seeing all the dialogue and confrontation, like, it's nice to have moments like these because the Shield Hero was doing pretty well, building a lot of trust over the kingdoms for his good deeds, and now everyone is going to think that he has no good deeds, and really they were just brainwashed or something like that. So the only thing that can really salvage his reputation and give himself a chance to survive again in this world is if the Queen agrees with Naofumi and meets with him, and Naofumi puts trust into the Queen, which from our point of view, we know the Queen is on Naofumi's side. She has to gain Naofumi's trust. There's no reason for him to immediately think that she's in the right, especially because if she is the most powerful person, why did the king get away with so much bullshit? Especially because apparently the Queen told the king to be nice to the Shield Hero, but we see what happened. We get false rape allegations, we get the weaker of the sisters being in power more than the actual heir to the throne, and that's exciting. I like when there's kind of complex politics at play. You got the matriarchy just not functioning as it should because obviously the king's done some dumb shit, and now it's up to the Queen to kind of fix and mend everything that he's kind of messed up. This episode was a lot of dialogue and a lot of music, but it really built what I think an intro episode to the second core should do, because this is the next step for the Shield Hero's journey. On the road again, going to another kingdom to level up. I mean, obviously he'll be transported back as soon as the wave's called, because that's how the heroes work, but still, it's nice to have that new journey, but then immediately have a detour for a more favorable outcome, because if the Queen can really side with Naofumi, his life's going to get a hell lot more easier, and hopefully people are going to be punished for their horrible and disgusting deeds. One thing I have to mention though is we did get a new opening and ending song. Last opening that we had was one of my favorite in the winter 2019 anime season. It was one of my top 2 anime openings, so I was interested to see where the new opening would go, and overall I have to say I think I like it equally to the first opening. I love all the music, it really feels nice, the drum beats are intense, and it really builds a hype atmosphere to get you ready for an episode. But the overall singing wasn't doing much for me, at least for the first half, but when the second half rolled around, I really fell in love with this opening, and the more I listen to it, the more I like it. So honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if down the line I enjoyed this opening more than the first, but right now I'd say the first opening and second opening honestly are about 1 for 1 for me, and the ending song is a nice peaceful way to kind of wrap up the episode. The visuals, though, for the ending song, they aren't anything special, but the visuals for the opening, really cool and has me hyped to see where some of these scenes will actually go. And I like seeing how you have, Worst Girl kind of chilling with the church, and after what's happened with this episode, it kind of ties together everything that's been going on. Honestly, episodes like these I loved. I'm sure there's going to be some people saying, oh, not enough action, even though we did have some action that was pretty fun, especially seeing both of the sisters use magic and things like that, and just how the Shield Hero keeps getting screwed over more and more. But because when he puts faith into people that are actually genuinely good people, he honestly gains a new party. And I honestly appreciate the fact that he put trust into the Sword Hero, where most of the fandom would say don't put any trust into the Sword Hero, but Naofumi has the bigger picture. He recognizes that even though he's an idiot right now, he sees potential in said idiot to maybe not be as clueless as maybe even he once was when he first joined this kingdom here. So it was nice to see this episode. Some people might want to complain that it wasn't enough action and there was a lot of walking and talking and just a lot of music kind of being more relevant than voice acting, but it kind of built the atmosphere I think an episode like this needs to really set the stage for this new adventure, this new where everyone wants to go with this, and I think it's going to be cool to see where this group will go on their quest to see the Queen and just what the other kingdoms will look like and function like, and what's the secret to this kingdom that people clearly don't want him going to. And I think that was a pretty nice way to kind of introduce us to the next chapter in the Shield Hero's journey. Based on everything that we've seen up till now, I wouldn't be surprised if the second core can even surpass the first, and the first was damn amazing. So honestly, I'm pretty excited to see where everything's going to go and how the politics will continue to get even more complex and kind of fleshed out, because once the Queen gets back there, I think the King's going to have a bad spanking to say the least. But let me know what everyone thought of this week's episode of the Rising of the Shield Hero, episode 13. What did you love about it? What did you dislike about it? Source material readers, how is the adaptation for the light novel? And for anime originals, where do you think this journey is going to go? Do you think Naofumi is going to trust in the queen, or do you think Naofumi's got something up his sleeve to kind of screw over the queen because he's pretty pissed off that the queen wasn't able to keep her man in line? Let me know down in that comment section below. And remember, leave a like if you did enjoy, and also hit that subscribe button if you're new around here. But until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.